Hello and welcome to my show, Intuitive Clarifications with Natasha. I am here to assist you in your life's journey, and I am a intuitive medium who loves to support people going through a lot of their stuff. And I'm also one who sees a lot of past lives or other lifetimes now. They're not necessarily past lives anymore, but that's the language that a lot of people know. But I'm here to support you in your life's journey and in your story. And me being a double Cancerian, I really understand those emotions, those stories, those knowings. And so with that, a lot of us are going through a lot of things right now. And a lot of grief is on this show, is coming through our world right now. And hi, Veronica, how are you? Thank you for being here. I'm hoping that this show can help people really understand how grief can actually be a benefit for us because of the fact that it really is something that, you know, tag, I was it. I really found out about myself through my grief process. And when you're going through the grief process, grief is sad, it's painful, it's a lot of story, it's a lot of anger, it's a lot of frustration, it's a lot of, uncertainty, it's a lot of this or that. You don't know how to cry. You don't know how to laugh. You don't know what you should really do. You don't even know yourself sometimes when you go through those life altering moments of grief. And when you're going through a life altering moment, and that's what I call them, is when things have happened that are like, let's say, life altering moment might be like the year that my husband got sober. That was a life altering moment. Or the moment that found out that, my dad died. That was a life-altering moment. It's like, or, you have a major job that got lost. That's a life-altering moment. And you can have little life-altering moments. Like I have a friend that just found out that some information that she was hoping for, almost was feeling like that was a perfect thing for her, might have fallen through. That's a life-altering moment. Right? So these life-altering moments can be just as much grief as it is losing someone. We don't always have to lose someone to have grief. We don't always have to be in the moment where we're, where things are happening. And remembering that grief is something that piles on and it piles on and it piles on. So like, let's say that the years where, I had, I found out my dad had cancer, and then I got married, and then my dad was struggling with cancer, and then I had a divorce, and then in the meantime I had animals, and then they ended up going with somebody else because I couldn't take care of them during that process of changing over in my relationship. And then at the same time, things were happening left and right, and that was the grief process. Those little hiccups were grief process, and marriage ending can be a grief process. Um, you know, gosh, a lot of people are struggling with what they're eating right now, right? I can't eat that anymore. That's a grief process, right? So when we're in the grief process, that's when we kind of go into, we don't see an out. We don't really see the out. We don't really see the moment where we can have an opportunity to move forward. We don't see that there is something that can process through. We think that that is going to be the ending moment, that heaviness, that weight, that sorrow, that unjoyful note, that whatever it is that moment that really lands on us, and it's hard to move through it. So as this show is going to be more about grief, and I want to bring a highlight to grief, though. I want you to know that grief, when you get to a walkable, I call it a walkable grief moment. It's that walkable time. It's where you kind of start seeing a little bit of light. You start seeing a moment. Now, everybody hits this light moment, this walkable moment at different times during the grief process. You can hit it and then walk back and not have it. And then you're in it again. And when I talk about the walkable grief, is that you know that it's not that the grief is not necessarily going to define you for the rest of your life, but it's going to be a part of you. It's going to be where things aren't just heavy. And that's what I call walkable grief, that you know that, okay, here's a moment that I'm going to cry and then I'll get through it. When you're in the deluge of it, that moment where, like, I have a friend, a coworker friend who lost her son. She may not get to that walkable moment 5 years from now. I have another person that I know that just lost her mom, and she was a caregiver. You know, she might be getting to the walkable moment here as we're speaking because she's feeling that moment. So, and that only happened here at Christmas time. So, going into this, that the walkable moment is not necessarily where you need to say, "I'm here now, hallelujah." It's a journey, it's a moment, it's a process, and that journey is life altering for us. But I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to tell you this off early, and then I'm going to swing back around to it. And Mother Mary has said that she's going to talk about this because who knows better of the grief process than Mother Mary, right? Losing her son like she did. That, it's one of those things that when we're going through this, that, we as a society, as a world right now, as in the United States, speaking of the United States, as like over in different countries like the Gaza and Israel and a lot of these different places, that you know there's a lot of grief that's coming on our planet right now. And it's not an easy place. It's really not an easy place. And so when you're going through this, hi, hello there. Thank you for coming on and watching me. It's not an easy thing that when we are in the grief process, it's not easy. And I want to give you a hug if you are in the deep down grief process. I know that things happen. I know that for me now, it's been, let's see, Scott is 32 years old. So that's 32 years for my dad because my dad passed away at the same time I was pregnant with my first child. Now I have not lost a child, so I don't have that understanding in this lifetime. Now I have had that happen in other lifetimes, and I go to that lifetime that shows me that understanding so I can be very empathetic and very sympathetic and whatever the empathetic it is that I'm called to be for you. But coming into this, that and I've never had in this lifetime about someone committed suicide, but I've done a lot of mediumship for people who have lost their child, who has come into this understanding that they couldn't be here anymore. And my love, oh God, there's nothing, I don't want to say one grief is worse than the other. Okay. It's everybody's personal journey. It's everybody's personal story when you're going through grief. And so every individual grief moment is an individual walk, even if it's about food that you can't eat anymore, even if it's the passing of an animal, even if it is passing of the job, even if it is a passing of, that a favorite store, restaurant closed down, even if it's a moment that you can't walk anymore or pick up things anymore or any of that kind of stuff. That's all can be hit with grief. But I'm going to tell you that the vulnerability that grief gives you, that vulnerability moment of understanding yourself just a little bit more, understanding yourself just that moment more, can really be a benefit to finding yourself a little bit more. Vulnerability is the greatest gift that we have. People think it's a weakness. People think that it's not a good thing. Vulnerability, though, is, especially when we're vulnerable with ourselves. And, grief is those things that you cannot walk around. You have to walk through it. You cannot be anything else but what you are in that moment. And, going into this, that, it's survivable if you're willing to negotiate the grief process of it. Now, I haven't always been like this. I'm not always like this when I'm talking about when I'm in grief. There's sometimes where I have tears going down my face. I'm watching the soppiest movie and I'm just in law and sorrow land, right? Even 34 years, 32 years later. The thing is, though, we have to honor where we're at. We have to be where we're at with that grief process. And, you know, there's been times where I'm driving and all of a sudden, it hits me. It hits me out of the blue. It hits me more than I can say. But the thing is, though, in that grief moment, I can say, because I've listened to my grief, because I've listened to my emotions, because I've listened to my story, because I've listened to who I am, I tell my grief, you got to wait a minute. You got to wait a minute. You got to wait till I am pulled over to where I can manage you and help you be voiced. And sometimes I'm on one side of the stoplight and I'll pull over and find a parking lot right on the other side of the stoplight. And I cry for a little bit. And I cry. I usually bring my makeup with me because my eyes water anyways. So I always have it. But at the same time, though, I let that emotion go. I let that emotion tell me, who am I? What am I? What am I going through? Because that's the thing, is if we do not let these emotions out, they're going to be like a pressure cooker that doesn't let off the steam. And that's going to be more hurtful to you as the individual than letting it out when you possibly can. So, hi, Champagne, how are you? I don't really know if I haven't hit me yet that my brother is gone, but when he passed, I feel that he is at peace, strong feelings that he is. And I am very proud of you, because a lot of times in the grief process, that it's not that we, like my dad, I knew where he was going. I had no fear about where he was going. The thing I missed was the physical touch, the physical hearing of their voice, the physicalness of their body, right? But their body or their soul, oh yeah, they're off, they're going, they are surrounded with angels and guides and loved ones. And, you know, they're okay. We're the ones who aren't. So my love is with you, because missing a brother is not easy. Missing a family member is not easy. And like I was saying, that, you know, grief doesn't necessarily have, you know, mine is worse than yours and yours is worse than mine. No, there's not a hierarchy to a grief process, but there's something that is unique about the grief that when you lose a child. I have witnessed many parents, mothers, and dads who have lost their child, and and when they are not here physically anymore. So do you believe they know they are gone, passed away? You know, that's a question. So let me finish my thought. That, you know, and I'll explain that a little bit here. That, you know, that as we're in the process of that, that people who have lost a child, it's beyond words sometimes. It depends on how the child is lost. It depends on really how, you know, like my coworker, she ended up hearing that her son got in the car, didn't feel quite right, didn't never wake up. So she never got to say those last final words. Where if somebody who's cancer, you have the process of grieving that, right? And it doesn't make it easier by any means. It's oh yes, I bet your mom is taking it hard. Oh yeah. And so going into this, the you know, it is a moment. The thing is, though, you know, we can have a cat that was so precious, that held us up in our dark times, and when they go, it can be just as impactful maybe than as a parent who passed away, or a sibling who passes away. Or so there's no like hierarchy to it's a more the personal relationship we had with that person. And like I was having a conversation with somebody as I was walking out of a building, and I go, I hope you're having an okay day." And he says, "Oh yeah, I'm struggling right now. My dad just passed away." And I said, "Oh, I, I wish you well on that." And he says that people have been, people just end up telling me their stories. I'm just one of those types of people that people tell me their stories. He says, "Yeah, people said I shouldn't be full of grief, um, because I never knew him. I never knew who he was. And so why am I grieving my dad?" And I said, "Well, actually, you're probably grieving the story you never had with him. The story that you put in your head that you wanted with him, the story that he who he was. You're grieving that you didn't have that relationship, for one, and then you're grieving the relationship that you had in your own mind. So you're grieving twice over, right? So grief can come to us in many different ways. So it's a moment, and we're all in the midst of this. So going back to your champagnes, your do do you believe they know that they are gone, passed away, gonna pass away? Some souls do, like my dad's soul. My dad, I always said, was one foot in this world and one foot in the other world. So he was very much an awakened soul, and he knew he was gonna pass away. There's some people who don't. There's sometimes where the soul, I would say many times, almost every single time, that the soul knows what's going to happen. That light that we are beyond our bodies, knows that we're going to be passing away. The thing is, though, and we might get a teller of that in our mind's eye, in our intuitive knowings, in our, uh, you know, that there's these things that can tell us that. And so, my brother always warned me, he knew, yeah, because some people know that they are going to pass away. That my dad, I think, knew that he was never going to be a long lived on this planet. My parents passed away when they were 56. And so 56, 57. So that, my dad never really felt like he was going to be around for a long time. And so some souls do know that they're not going to be here. Sometimes, you can tell when, somebody is like, going really hard, joyful, always light of the world, always on, always going. And then they pass away younger, in their 20s, maybe. Well, their soul knew that take in as much as you can of this world in this physical body. Because I believe that in this physical body, we have an experience, and certainly for this experienced body. But then thing is, though, in different dimensions, in different worlds, we'll have a different experience in that physical body or that body being that we're in. And so with that some souls are more awake and they know. And a mind says, I can handle that understanding. Like for me, I have an understanding that my body's going to be around for a long time. Whatever that looks like, I don't know. I just been told that. Now that might happen, right? And I feel the same, as well. Some of us are meant to be here longer and some of us aren't. And I mean that with a lot of love, because it hurts when people go physically. It hurts when we don't have that physical interaction again, i.e., we can't eat that food anymore, right? So coming into this, that grief is so amazingly the most life-altering thing we can go through, because a life-altering moment usually is connected somehow with grief. That, and even somebody who, they're the dark night of the soul. People talk about the dark night of the soul, where you're going through really bad hardships, where you're going through a lot. Well, I've done that a couple times, and to me, it's a jaunt through darkness, right? Because it's just a moment, and I've done that enough. But those life altering moments, like I talked about a couple shows ago about my awareness that I had about my sexual partnerships, and all that trauma that I had because of that, and how my body was breaking out, and how all that was a life altering experience for me. And in that life altering experience for me, there was grief, because I was saying goodbye to those old stories, right? And in that grief moment, I cried. I didn't know where to go from here. I didn't know how to do this. I didn't know. And luckily, a friend just let me process, let me I'm a woman. I love to process out loud. And so she gave me a witness to process it. And in that processing, that I was able to really grieve that child that didn't get heard, grieve the person who I was, grieve the person who never got heard, grieved who never got honored for who she was, grieving all those things. But that vulnerability piece, me stepping into that vulnerable piece, and there's something amazing about that vulnerability that grief gives us that understanding that we can find ourselves, our truer selves. We all have a piece of ourselves that is sometimes a front from all the truths that we've had, right? That our friends wanted to have us be a persona. If we were drinkers, that gave us a persona. I used to be shy and quiet. That was a persona. Now I'm my truer self. I am who I am. I'm not going to keep quiet anymore. I'm not going to. I am who I am. Now, because of that vulnerability piece, that I trusted me to be able to have a voice for myself. And, I'm practicing it in different places, right? Some places are better suited than other places. The thing is, though, when we are in the grief process of something, it's a great opportunity to really check in who we are. I know I'm witnessing a woman who, through her grief process, like she says, that I don't really want to carry the world on my shoulders anymore. And I did a happy dance. I did a happy dance for her because she's finding her truer self. Because women do not have to carry the world on their shoulders anymore. We can care about the world, but we don't have to carry them on our shoulders. We may grieve that we're not that person anymore that can carry the world because our adrenals and our bodies don't want to do it anymore, right? Um, I feel the same as well. Yes, a roller coaster ride for sure on the spiritual path. Definitely, definitely. Oh my gosh, because you have to have that breath in and breath out when you're doing your spiritual awakenings or your spiritual path or your spiritual understandings. That grief is part of that understanding that we are so human. At the same time, though, we're bigger beings than we ever knew before. Isn't that a contradiction? We're so human, yet we're the biggest beings that we've ever been in our lives because we have soul. We have the spirit with us. We have this journey of who we are. And so when we're talking about the really understanding of who we are and what we're going to be, but the thing is, though, the more we work with those emotions, the more that we get grounded in our story, the more we get grounded in who we are, more grounded in that understanding that we are perfectly imperfect in the story of us, right? That we can find ourselves a little bit more. And you'll notice that your digestive system starts healing. You don't get so many headaches. You don't have so many shoulder aches. Your back is a little bit more lighter. You come into this with a little bit more joyfulness. And it's not necessarily that you have joy, but when you start saying, that's a little thing, right? Not to say that let's say somebody has, like the kids on the playground, they stub their toe or their knee, and it's like, ow, 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 and it's a big thing to them, right? And I know that, in the big thing of life, it's going to pass soon, and they'll be running around like it never even happened. That part of understanding that things are not all that they are meant to be. They're not all the story that we are. Things come and go as they are. Now, like my husband is talking about wanting to move from this house. I don't want to move from this physical house, and that already is triggering some grief in me because I love this place I am. I love my home. I love the land. I love my community. I love the Northwest Washington. I love a lot of different things, but the spiritual knowing of this process is about movement and vulnerability. So I'm trying to be as vulnerable as I can with this understanding about movement and the understanding that the grief process, because grief isn't always the minute something happens. Sometimes grief is when we get a notification of something, right? We get start grieving the process. Let's say you start grieving the process when you find out information about somebody being ill and you know that they're on going to be on hospice and stuff like that. Or you get the like me with the house here that I'm already starting to grieve leaving the house. Not to say that I'm in that story, but I'm honoring that moment when they do whisper through the mind. Sometimes when like we're having a wedding in the family and there's going to be family coming, and I can always say I'm going to miss the people that are going to be leaving, and I'll grieve them at the same time that I'm at the wedding and laughing, right? I've kind of played with the dance of grief, so I can do both at the same time. And I honor that part of me. Sometimes it is that I'll have tears going down my face because I know that I'm going to miss the person when they get on the plane. At the same time, though, life moves on and I'm going to be with what's going to move on. And I know for me that like you know, when I told my family, we got to go to Florida, we got to go to Florida, we got to go to Florida. And I'm going to pay for everybody's plane ticket because I knew that my father-in-law wasn't going to make it to the next Christmas. I just knew something was going to happen to him. I knew, and I'm intuitive. I got the bigger picture, which that we're all intuitive in some ways, so we get messages in different ways, right? But I got the message, and Christmas time we were there. We got the family pictures. We got the family doing. We got our stories, right? And he passed away the following April. So going into this is the month that he passed away. His birthday his birthday is just right around the corner here. So now I'm going to text my mother-in-law because I know that it's a story. So coming into this, that grief can very much come around. So there I'm going to segue into this. Do you ever get sad at certain times when things usually have happened to you or things have happened in your life? I know for me that like my dad passed away at the end of June. And so I am kind of low energy. I'm kind of melancholy. I'm kind of just out of it a little bit. I'm not necessarily in the moment. And so if you are necessarily, in that moment and you forget, why am I melancholy? Why am I so, you know, such, down energy? Well, partly that is because your body's energy will remember a a um a tag that things happen at this time of the year. And so going into this, you may not remember, but your body remembers, your mind remembers, your emotions remember, and your story remembers. So if you get kind of in that moment, check in to see if it's not an anniversary of something, because we can get into that lower energy vibe. And I get the same way at the end of September when my mother passed away. It's like I get into these different places where it's like, oh, that's right. That happened, didn't it? Right. So coming into this, we don't always understand why we are a certain way. We don't understand how we get to a certain place. But I can tell you though that grief is something that when you get into that moment where you are in grief, honor yourself. I know for me, when I was in the grief process of who I was, that I felt like the mud, metaphorically, was up over my head. And I could not see where I was going. I couldn't feel where I was going. I couldn't resonate with where I was going. And then pretty soon, I was walking my life, my day-to-day life, like like at one point in time, I talked to my father-in-law, who's now passed, you know, Dale, I don't know how to be me. I don't know how to be a wife. I don't know how to be Natasha. I don't know how to be a mom. I don't know how to be anybody right now. And he said, Natasha, all you have to do is keep walking forward and you'll find your way. You'll find how to be that person. You'll find the new normal. And that's the thing is that grief will give us a new normal. And, even my friend who found out some information today or yesterday, and she's been having this feeling that, she's going to have to find a new normal with herself because she's finding out about more about herself. And so coming into this, we're not always in a straight line with grief. So take care of you while you're doing that process. Take care of you in that motion. Take care of you. And as the sun was kind of going down, you can tell it's not so bright, that's the way the energy comes into our understanding. It's coming down into a moment. It's coming down into who we are. It's kind of, we go into these darknesses once a while, and then we'll come up and out of it after a little while. And, there again is the roller coaster ride. But it's okay if you do. But that's the thing is that I'm really mentioned, and I've mentioned this before on shows, that when I get into those really soppy, overwhelming grief moments, it's usually more towards the night. I'm more of a night owl. And so I'll turn on a TV and I'll watch like the Hallmark movies or something really soppy and really sad. And I'll cry and I'll be sad and I'll do it. And then the house is dark because my husband usually goes to bed around 9 o'clock. So he's off to bed and, it's just quiet and I can just be myself. Well, I do that. I just step into the emotion. I step into that feeling. I've stepped into who I was at that moment. And then what I do is when I go to bed, I'm feeling it still, having my eyes are puffy and just doing what I'm doing. And that's where I'm grateful for castor oil sometimes on my eyes because it helps with that. But, and then in the morning when I wake up, I say to myself, okay, emotions, you've had your chance last night to feel. So today I still have to get up. I still have to negotiate my story. I still have to do what I have to do. And I'm going to live with you. I'm going to honor you. Thing is, though, I am going to have to say that you had your time to really be heard last night. So today you're going to have to sit on the back burner a little bit. And that's the thing is I talk to my emotions like they're my best friend, and I talk to them. What do you need? How are you? What are you doing? And grief is one of those things that you really have to hold on to it and understand that we're okay. We're going to be okay. This is a stage. This is a moment. This is an idea. This is who we are right now. This is a new normal for us. It's a new understanding of who we are. It's a new gift of who we are. And what are we going to do about it? We're going to love each other through it. And that's the thing. This is a new way to finding out how much you love yourself. Grief is another story about finding out how you can love yourself. And, and like I was saying, this could be as simple minded thinking as, can't eat a food anymore. It could be that you couldn't drive a certain your car anymore. It could be that, that you couldn't get the like the opportunity that you had fell through. And, that's the grief process. It's not always, it's going to the grocery store and you just can't find what you want for dinner. That's the grief process. Your boss tells you something. That's it's a grief process. And grief could be actually a happy thing, that you found out something. And it could be, one of the happier things to do, right? So coming into this, it's not always a negative thing when you're in grief. People put grief as a negative thing. It could be, you can get stuck though. So remembering that if you're stuck in grief, that it's okay for a while, but I always pictured like emotions are like a bicycle wheel. And those spokes on the bicycle wheel? Well, when we get stuck in an emotion, anger, frustration, depression, whatever it is, it's like the spoke goes through the wheel and the wheel can't move. It hits against things because that spoke is out. So whatever you're in, it could be in denial, it could be in joy, it could be whatever it is, can be that spoke can be hit and it could be not moving anymore. And that's when things are unhealthy. I had a session with somebody who lost her partner, and for her, he was the other side of the soul. He was her other half, and 10 years later, she's acting like it was yesterday. And she hasn't moved to that walkable grief, that walkable moment, right? And that's sad for her. But the thing is though, in order to get out of that, people have to stop doing things for you. You have to get up. And there's going to be more than just depression. That's your chemical balance in your body has changed. There is a difference between happy tears and sad tears. And so when you're sitting in sadness all the time, your brain changes. Your chemistry in your body changes, and it's harder to get out of that. And so if you can, when you're grieving, try to be as physical as you can. Do not be stagnant. Stagnicity puts you, when you're in grief, into a story. And this could be, even if you can't eat food anymore, be physical about it. Do movement, do exercises, go for a walk, talk to people, do something physical, because that will help express the stress of your body, right? And like I had the analogy that came to me in a video one time, that grief or life altering moments or whatever it is like a rock that you put in your pocket. And at first that rock is heavy and it's noticeable and it's in the way. But the thing is though, after a while we get used to carrying that rock, and the rock doesn't get lighter, but we get stronger. We get different. We become, I don't want to call it numb to that rock being in our pocket, but we become more in alignment with it being with us. And so coming into this, it's not anything that's good or bad. It's just we are where we're at. And so I'm going to take this moment right now and segue into Mother Mary. She said, I'll come and speak with you tonight. So Mother Mary is here. I love it when Mother Mary comes. She came in my last show, and she always gives sweet guidances. And if I have a chance, I'm going to be doing oracle cards after the show. Now, when I channel, I'm not a full body channel. But I channel enough to know that deity is here. Your truth is your truth. If you don't believe in channeling, at least listen to the words, because sometimes those words can be helpful in your life's journey. So, and Mother Mary, I want you to be clarified, is that she does not sit with any particular reason or religion. She is love. She is mom. She is support. She is wisdom. And as the sun is coming out again, she is light. She is amazing. She has helped me through so much. Oh my gosh, beyond words how much she's helped me. So in a second here, I'm going to get myself aligned with her. I will not see the comments. So if you make a comment, I will not see the comments as a human. Now, remember, when channeling happens, that they come through our mind. And so she may use words that I use. But the thing is, though, she will be who she is. Okay. Okay. So Mom will be talking, and then I'll come back through, and then we'll do oracle reads, and then the show will be done around 5 o'clock. Thank you all that are here. I'm grateful for everyone that has come in, popped in, and popped back out. I am grateful. And you can reach me at intuitiveclarifications.com if you would like some support in your life's journey. Okay, here comes Mother. Oh, dear children of my story of life and love, I am here to be with you and love you more than you know that I love you. So if you have felt some love around you, it's I that is with you. I, Mother Mary, as I'm called, or Mary, or one who knows the love of the life of who we are. I am here to assist you in this journey. I love to be with you. I am a great shopper too. I love to shop with you. So if you get certain deals, I love to support you in that life journey. So remember, this dear one was told, she listened to the whispers to talk about grief because there is much grief on your planet at this time. You'll have a lot of things happening that people do not always agree with or in alignment with. And that is grieving that story of who we used to be. We used to be a planet that went through things, but they were always regional, weren't they? If something was happening over in uh, in Libya and also in Russia or the or other places, right? That we were there only. We weren't all around the world. Now you are all around the world, so the collective energy is collective around the world. We deities, as you call us, we love you and we are here to be with you. Yes, we're doing work behind the scenes to help assist you in this life's journey. The breakdown process that you are going through on this planet right now is part of the evolution of the spiritual walk. And the growth that you are coming into is finding out who you truly are and your personal truths. Sometimes you have to grieve those personal truths, that they are no longer in alignment when they are meant to be gone, right? So as you go forward and as you walk into your story of who you are, remember this is a time to shake off those old unwanted knowings. I love that word that this dear one says, knowings that you have in your journey, that they are no longer suited for your new truths. And as we are watching this unfold in the here the United States, that we are in the process of turning things up and down, inside and out, so that you can find your truth. Israel and the Gaza Strip has been in battle for millions of years. The stories of ego and I and you and we are separated is in need of healing, so that they know that they are all the same: blood, skin, bone, soil, and life and love. Yet beliefs can walk hand in hand. Different belief systems can walk hand in hand, but they have yet to figure that out, right? So then there's the battle. And that is grief, my dear children. That is the grief process. That is why when I felt the pain of my son on the cross, yes, he was on the cross, but him on the cross didn't give him the chance to voice who he truly was. Yet his vulnerability gave him the chance to become who he truly was, which was spirit, for a little while his body healed. He moved on and lived on to have many children, as I had many children, not just him. He was part of this plan to become a pinpoint for the universe of love on this planet. He chose to come on this planet once so that he can be the gift of love to be witnessed. He even loved his family, his fellow man, when they decided to spare him. Love is part of the story of this new walk that you're coming into. I grieved the moment my son passed. I grieved the process of him going to that death process. I grieved the moment he was born, knowing his journey was not to be of ease. I grieved the child that wanted to play, but yet he was bigger and knew he was a story that needed to be bigger than just a 3-year-old. I grieved the moment that I had to let him go with the wise man to do the work of the healing process. That healing process that the wise man gave him the knowing. And here comes the sun again. Isn't that a miracle? Isn't it? The timing gave him the ability to heal his body after being placed in the tomb. He needed to be able to reconnect with his soul's body to heal it. The magic of that moment was a miracle. And as Jesus did grieve me when he passed, right? When I passed in that moment of the older years, he grieved the process of losing me, even though he knew I was of spirit. And then he passed soon after because we were to do some spirit work together, as we always do. So as you walk in this belief system of your story, remember that you are going to have the grief process and you will survive and make it well. You look at the one that is in front of you. She went through a lot. She went through a lot of uncertainty and unearthing to be herself. And she is happier than she ever has been. This dear one knows how to walk forward. We all have strengths in us that we do not realize until we get to that moment where the rug, as you say, gets out from underneath you. So as you go forward, dear ones, remember, joy is part of who you are. Sadness is part of who you are. Anger and frustration is part of who you are. Excitement is part of who you are. Believe in you and believe in the joy that you are, because you are a miracle in the works. You have greatness coming to you. Remember, the strength that you are is not ego. It's about purpose. It's about understanding. It's about certainty that you know you. And as you go forward and is in your dance, that you are part of the loving community of insightfulness for this planet to be. Let yourself feel what you feel. Let yourself move on from that feeling and then come back and be your centered self after you find that part of you. It is part of that breaking down of the self, of ego and other people's stories to be you. But remember, it is rewarding to be a truer you, even if you feel more, even if you're sad more, even if you're joyful more, even if you forget that you're not always a spiritual walk, right? Find joy when you can. Dance metaphorically or for real. This one loves to dance. And be you with joyfulness, sadness, pain, and story and gloriousness. Embrace the whole human experience. You will be much better off if you do. Your wisdom is a gift. Your story is a knowing. And your mind and body, soul, and spirit are part of that community. Time to reach out for you. Time to be you. Time to be the loving you. I, Mother Mary, am here for you, to be you, to know you. I understand you. You may not understand me. I am love. I am divine guidance. I will be here with you to walk the path with you. And I'm very proud of each and every one of you for how you are moving forward in your life and walking with the knowings of the trust. The trust process is not easy right now in this planet, and it's breaking down old patterns because of that. It's time to believe in you and your story. You make a difference. You will always make a difference because you are you. My love is with you, my dear friends and brothers, sisters, and children. I love you so much. You are amazingly beings. It's time for you to believe that and walk as one. So be. Thank you, Veronica. Whoa. Come out of the wash, the love wash, for a minute. Oh my gosh. I love Mother. She always has so much love for everyone. I hope everybody felt that. Okay, so Veronica, you would like a card, like you said earlier. Thank you for your call. Sorry, I had a call I had to be on, and I couldn't get back to you. I apologize. Okay, so Veronica, you know the story. You know the story about tuning in. Obviously, you're tuned into these cards, and I will. Is just one for you? Is it just one today? Cards. I didn't even look at what it was yet. Oh, there's 2, 3. Okay. Okay, so Veronica, the first card was you're walking your truth. Love it. You're walking a truth. Love it. You're walking a new knowing of truth. Love it. So truth is part of this. You're listening to a truth that is yours. Now remembering that when you're in a story of where you're at, there's always two sides to every story, but yet you're walking your truth. Good job. Because the masculinity in your world is going to be coming into a different understanding, because the one that you sit with don't always sit in the strength of who they are. They sit with the ego of who they are. So you're doing good walking without the ego, which is a good thing. But remember, you don't have to be the person off to the side with your back. You can be in your own truth here, because dragon is with you. Remembering though that it was upside down, so it's about balance and strength, and don't let the dragon roar. There's going to be a time when you can roar a little bit more, okay? But it's time to quietly fly about the skies to find your truth and your story and your new beginnings. Power and strength. So remember, power and strength doesn't always mean that you have to be outwardly and bullying. It could be that you're just gentle and flying. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Okay. Anybody else would like a card? I'm going to go here soon. Does anybody else want a card? Hi, Jessica. Thank you. I just got home from first day at my new job. Congratulations. It was better than expected. I would like a card, please. Congratulations, Jessica. Oh, I'm so glad that you jumped and you took it, because you never know what the doorways mean. We can always kind of close the doors after we get in, but we never know what that doorway means. So good job, Jessica. Good job. I'm so happy for you. Yeah, and it's a story. It's a roller coaster, right? But yeah, at the same time, it's an amazing time to be you. Okay, so Jessica, this is for Jessica. Tuning in, Jessica. Okay, woo! You almost got like about 10 cards, and I can't do that. Sorry. I know you'd want 10 cards, but I can't necessarily do that. Not enough time. Okay, for Jessica, what cards want to talk to her about her knowings? Okay, come on. Now you're feeling like you're kind of getting here. Let's get this straight. But I bet it's nice having some financial income coming in. Okay, so that's there. Ooh, that's there. Is there one more? Okay, you're going to get a couple of them, girl. I was trying not to, but you're getting... Okay, so the first card out was... was trust, right? For trust. That must be the theme. We got to trust right now. Love yourself through the process, because the masculine energy is pretty strong on this planet right now, and we can't always hold into that. It's balance between the feminine and the masculine, right? Because without a queen, the king doesn't have balance, right? Because we're going through the death process. Death is not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing, but it's a process. But it's a card upside down, so it's not a straight line. It's not necessarily, it's not always seen. So you're going to be, as you're working into this new job and getting out more and doing things, just remember that your body isn't necessarily used to working like it did, right? So trust the process of, sometimes you feel up and sometimes you feel down, because it's time to be gentle with yourself. But again, it's not right upright. So it's a wobbly line to take care of ourselves, but make sure we take ourselves, because we do not want to step into the wounded ego. We don't want to be in the wounded ego of the whys and why can't I's and all that kind of stuff. Be empowered. Be empowered. Because sometimes you have to be empowered with that masculine energy to be in balance. Speak a truth. And Jessica, remembering that you're in the middle of something new. So, Mercury's in retrograde right now, so we got to be careful about how we're speaking to one another. Oh my gosh. Whew. And so be careful about that. But remembering that, after you're there for a little bit, remember you can voice that you would like to move up in the company. You want to change how you are in the company. You can change maybe what you're doing in the company. There's something about that, but not right now, but as you get more into the mix, because you have great wisdom with you. So use the wisdom of the magic. Okay. Hope that helped, Jessica. Is there anybody else who would like a card reading? Otherwise, it's 4:09. So if you would like to reach me to have a session, please go to intuitiveclarifications.com. You're more than welcome. I have lowered my prices just a little bit, from $175 for an hour to $150. And then that has equaled out going through my my bundle sessions too, so that hopefully, if you want to work on something a little bit more deeper, those bundle sessions can be helpful. Okay. So may love be with you. Let me get some. This is a card for the intention for life right now. Okay, this card here. We're in transformation time. We're in a very big transformational time. Remembering that the caterpillar stage goes from the egg, the beginning of an idea, to the caterpillar, gaining information, to the chrysalis, to the hibernation moment of transformation where you just sit there and process what you're going through, to the butterfly where you have to stretch your wings, which is not always easy, to get the nectar of life. And you get the rewards of the work you're doing. Depends on the butterfly stage, depends on where you're at. But remembering we're in a butterfly stage right now. And it's going to take some little patience. It's going to take some good boundaries. It's going to speaking up. I know that I've been working with the on social media. There's a guy that has been, doing the shutdowns at certain times, and I've actually been doing that. That's one of my ways that my small voice can be heard, even though I'm not trying to be political. Honestly, I'm not. My love is with you. Remember, I do a lot of social media posts on supporting you in your life journey. And as we walk forward, remembering that love can heal. So be love when you can. Have boundaries when you can. And remember that wisdom can come. Swallow. Wrong. So blessings on your journey. I'm Natasha Venter at intuitiveclarifications.com, loving to support people going through the emotional stories of who we are as we're walking forward. And remembering this is an hour show with a short version of walking through grief, when grief is a journey and it's a long story. So it could be 30 years later and you still feel like it happened yesterday. Remembering, take care of you when you're going through emotions. Be a little bit physical. Go for a walk. Do a vibration play, whatever you can to get yourself through it, because movement helps the physical body process the emotions. Blessings to you, and I will be here next Wednesday talking about something. Blessing be. Bye now.